Welcome to the Sharing Without Shame podcast, dedicated to parents and anyone else who loves someone in active addiction. Education is a powerful tool in breaking down stigma, fostering understanding, and ultimately helping individuals and their loved ones navigate the challenges of addiction. With Donna Marston, author of Peeling the Onion and Sharing Without Shame. So take a deep breath and grab some tissues as we uncover the stories of love, courage, and unwavering support in the face of adversity, as Donna and her guests share their stories without shame. Because when we share our stories without shame, we inspire others to do the same.
Hello and welcome. Today, I'm talking with Mike Brown, who is a recovery advocate. He's helped people across the country connect with treatment resources, and today he is an advocate for harm reduction. He's the president and founder of a peer-led nonprofit called Never Use Alone. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. First question I always ask is, what would you like to share without shame?
What would I like to share without shame? I think the biggest message that needs to be out there these days is that if you've tried the 12-step method, it's not working for you, or it's not working for your son or daughter, it's not your fault or their fault. It's just not working for you. So many people are being told that if it doesn't work for you, it's your fault. You're not doing it right. I think one of the biggest messages right now needs to be that if it's not working for you, keep trying something else.
And there's no shaming to keep trying, right?
Absolutely not. For me, I'm a person in recovery too. I was an IV drug user for many, many years. I did the 12-step method, 10 years probably, in and out of the rooms, of course. I'd get a couple of months, and then I'd drink a beer, or I'd smoke a joint or whatever, and program of honesty. So I'd tell my sponsor, and well, you screwed it all up. You got to start it all over. Well, if I had to start over anyway, I'd end up with a needle in my arm again. So the abstinence or nothing method doesn't work for me, and honestly, it doesn't work for most. So if you're in that crowd that it's not working for you, you're not alone. So
yeah, because there's many pathways to recovery.
They all have about the same success rate. So, if you like the SMART recovery or CRAFT or the 12-step method or MARA or any of them, all have about the same success rate. So, if one's not working for you, I've got a list of, I think, 20 more alternatives on that I've put together. So there are plenty of other alternatives out there. You just got to try the pathway that works for you. And there are many out there. For me, and I don't mind saying this, cannabis was what saved my life. Mm-hmm. So if I had never gone to a meeting and got that in my head that was failure, maybe I would have got out of this years, decades earlier.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but when I finally did leave the program and give cannabis a try, it worked. A year later, I found I still hadn't put a needle in my arm. And I was helping out in the community, and my life was going great. And so I have to wonder now, if I had never gone to a meeting, would I have gotten as bad as I did? I know people that are dead now because of that program. So I have some strong feelings about that. I got some resentments, as they say. People are being pushed off their medications in those rooms, and that's deadly for a lot of people.
So how do you define addiction, or what are some common misconceptions that people have about it?
Addiction to me is when you've got something you have to have or do that you're willing to do things you wouldn't normally do. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. But there's a difference between addiction and physical dependence. just because somebody's on methadone or Suboxone and they're physically dependent on that doesn't mean they're addicted. I hear a lot of people say, if you're on Suboxone, you're just trading one for another. Not at all. I mean, yes, you might get sick if you don't have it, but that's not addiction. That's physical dependence. When it becomes a problem is when these policies cut people off, and without any type of notice or taper or anything, they're just cut off, and they end up right back into where they were. So yeah, there's a big difference between addiction and physical dependence to me.
What does harm reduction? Can you explain harm reduction to people? I don't think a lot of people understand harm reduction. A lot of people are against medicated assisted treatment.
It's all basically, if people would really research from reliable sources, the CDC, the National Institute of Health, the Harvard, anywhere, all of them support what we're doing in harm reduction with syringe exchange, and it's all backed by evidence, statistics. I mean, we've got years of it. As far as MAT, they've been doing research on methadone since the 60s or 70s. There's decades of research to support its use. Suboxone is backed by plenty of evidence itself. But harm reduction to me is accepting somebody, loving somebody without limit, like without expectation. I'm not going to tell somebody, if you're using drugs, don't call me, or don't call me when you're high or whatever. It's acceptance. It's love. It's connection. Connection is huge.
Meeting where they're at, loving them where they're at.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in the opposite of sobriety. Addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. I believe that. Absolutely. Johan Hari.
That's why there's a lot of recovery community centers throughout. I know in New Hampshire we have a lot of them, but because it connects people. With people like mind who understand what you're going through. So it makes it a little bit easier. Plus, they offer resources, and they'll drive you to treatment. They'll do all kinds of stuff for you, which is
a lot of people see harm reduction as just enabling drug use or encouraging it. But people that take part in syringe exchange programs are 5 times more likely to enter treatment than those who don't. So when you get them in those rooms and you can talk to them like people, treat them like people, and show them what their resources are that are available to them. Give them a pathway to treatment, whatever treatment pathway that may be. But they're not going to even see those pathways if they never come into that program. So aside from the connection part, it's also more beneficial to the community. We're keeping more syringes off the street. It's syringe exchange, not syringe distribution. And now there's some places require 1-to-1, but I'm going way deep into it now. But yeah, harm reduction to me is connection, love without condition.
Yeah, without expectations.
Yep, absolutely.
I've been trained in harm reduction, and one of the things, I talk to parents about on occasion, and it's often not, I don't know that it isn't received well, I guess, is when I say to them, if you can offer your child, if you know your child's an IV user, and you can have some new needles, clean needles available, and maybe some fentanyl strips, and you can have your child test their test the drugs that they're using. And if they know there's fentanyl in them, you use a lot less. If they some people, my understanding is, I don't have a SUD, but my understanding is when you need to self-medicate, it's like somebody's holding you underwater and you feel like you're drowning and you're suffocating and there's a panic and you just need to get whatever that is, that substance is, to make you feel normal.
Yeah. I've often thought of it as like a bag over your head.
Yeah, right? It's suffocating. And so, by offering this, because I saw a needle that has been used multiple times by different people. And what happens is the head of the needle just fractures, and that can cause a lot more damage, right? It can cause
You'll have names on it.
Abscess, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So how do you get somebody like I used to be to understand that's a form of harm reduction? It's not condoning that it's okay to inject heroin or whatever their drug of choice is. It's not that you're saying it's okay. It's just, I want you to be safe. Right. And I'm hoping that if it's almost kind of like, I guess, the concept of legalizing it. Because I know in Spain, when they legalized it, and people got better. Yeah. So if you're saying, here you go, I want to help you, and hopefully you'll decide to move forward in treatment. But for now, let's keep you safe and alive.
Yeah.
How would you explain all this to a parent?
That's a good question. That's a hard one. If you look at the statistic, really, I mean, most people are getting their information from their cousin's uncle's brother's taxi driver. It's all just something somebody told them. They don't really know if it's true. I mean, you hear all these things about syringe exchange and those sorts of things, and they're not true. But if you actually research, like I said, go to a reputable source, not Joe's blog or whatever. Go to a reputable source and research. We've been doing this. We've been with addictions forever. And obviously what we're doing isn't working. But we have evidence to support what does. So, and until these people, and see, I don't, a lot of people say that we need to keep them safe until they're ready to quit, which is great. But we need to keep them safe regardless if they have a goal of quitting. A lot of people don't want to. And those people who don't want to go to meetings or don't, seem to get any type of that, or they're just kind of put to the side. There's nowhere in between. There's nowhere to fill the gap except harm reduction. We've got that connection there. We can get on the ground with them. Love them right where they're at, as we're saying. But research reputable sources. Oh, you're not gonna believe me. You don't know me. I'm some guy here in a fluorescent hat. I just got off work, by the way. I apologize for that. But anyway, research that. And one of the biggest things, like I bring up a lot, is connection. Was never used alone. The operators are all people with lived experience. And the connections we make with our callers is, aside from the life-saving aspect of the service, the connections we're able to make with our callers, because it's a non-judgmental, safe space. And the anonymity of it, too, I believe, helps a lot, obviously. But I hear all the time our callers saying, man, I love that I can just call and talk. I wish my parents could hear this. So we're actually thinking about doing some kind of podcast with callers that would agree to have their story heard, but in a way that that's not being influenced by a speaker meeting or an office somewhere. It's just two drug users talking.
Mm-hmm. So how did you go from being an active addiction to your recovery to being the president and founder? Never Use Alone.
I in February of 2017 was when I started trying to change things. I had a couple of slips between then, but in 2019 or 2018, finally got it all together, and then that's when I saw a documentary, and I don't even want to say the guy's name now because just some bad things came out about him, but it was really inspiring. And so I got into the recovery advocacy, and I was helping people connect with treatment resources around the country, but I was focusing on people without insurance. But by doing that, it put me in contact, basically showed me behind that dangerous curtain that hides the treatment industry. It's a very dangerous industry. So after about a year of that, I decided I couldn't be a part of that. I just couldn't do it. But I knew I had to be helping some way. Just if I didn't, everything I went through would have been for nothing. So I started researching harm reduction, and an organization from a friend who runs an organization in New York called Next Distro mailed me a bunch of naloxone, and I started distributing that in my area. And I just love being able to connect to people like that and talk. But about that same time, I was helping run a private support group on Facebook for people like us. One of our members one morning posted in there saying that a friend of his had died the night previously, that he was alone. So if anybody was going to use, here's my phone number, call me, and I'll stay on the phone. And I thought, how can we do that on a large scale?
Right.
I got together with some friends, and Never Use Alone was born a week later, I think. Yeah, that was August of 2019.
Mm-hmm. And so what is Never Use Alone?
It is when somebody is using by themselves with nobody there to call for help. They can call our line. It's a toll-free number. It's a U.S. national line. Anybody in the U.S. can call. But
can you provide that number?
Yeah, it's 1-877-696-1996. And it's neverusealone.com. We've got a FAQ on our website there with a lot of our most frequently asked questions. Anyway, it's a toll-free number they call. They'll hear a little recording that tells them, we'll do everything we can to get you help in time, but we cannot guarantee that help gets there in time, so you're still using it at your own risk. So by continuing this call, you acknowledge that, however it's worded. But then they're connected to an operator. Again, those operators are all people with lived experience. Some of them are in recovery. Some of them are not. We don't require abstinence to be an operator. But, and I'll get off track if I go into that. But so once they're connected with the operator, they'll ask for their name. It can be a fake name, a nickname, whatever they want to be called while we're talking. Then we'll ask for their location, down to what room they're in. Are the doors unlocked? Do you have dogs up that might hurt the EMTs or scare them? Is there a code to get in your apartment building? If you're in a car, is there a landmark, a McDonald's or something near you? Well, what color car are you in? As many identifying details as we can get. And we ask for their phone number to call them back in case we get disconnected. After all that, we read it all back to them, make sure we've got it right, and tell them, go ahead and do your thing. Let me know the second you're done. So whether that be injecting or taking a hit or snorting a line or whatever, let us know the second you're done. So as soon as they do, I keep an eye on the clock. And for people that are injecting fentanyl, usually about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we'll stay on the phone with them at very least, just to make sure they're going to be all right. After that amount of time, their chances are going to be pretty, they're fine. But if the caller does stop responding, we attempt to get in touch with them, yell their name or whatever. If they don't respond for 30 to 45 seconds, we alert EMS to that location. We're taking 40,000 something calls now, and alerted EMS 150 something times, I think.
Wow.
And as far as we know, all of them are still alive.
Wow.
Well, all of them through that call. Yes.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, that we're aware of. We hadn't been informed of anybody, so I hope not. But as far as we know, but yeah, so that's basically it. It's and as I said earlier, the connections are equally as important as a life-saving aspect. So It's an overdose response line. We don't call it an overdose prevention line. We did in the beginning, but we're not really preventing anything. So we didn't want to be misleading. So we call it an overdose response line, and but it's also a connection line. And we have, I said, when somebody's injecting, we'll stay on the phone 10 minutes at very least. We have calls that are 2-3 hours sometimes with the operator and the caller just talking. Or there'd be times when they just keep using more. And we're never going to tell them they can't. We never push them into treatment. We'll never mention treatment. We have resources around the country to help them if they do want that help. If they ask for it, we will go to the end of the earth to help them get whatever help they want. But unless they ask for it, until they bring it up, we're not gonna push it. We don't want to be pushing because, we're asking them a lot to trust us enough to call in the first place.
Right.
If they called and we're telling them, hey, I think you ought to get some help, buddy, blah, blah, blah. They're not going to call back the second time.
Right.
You know, we leave the judgment at the door. There's no judgment, no preaching about going to treatment, none of that. It's just two people talking on the phone, making sure somebody's all right. It's like somebody, like you're walking to your car at night, you call a friend that, hey, just stay on the phone with me while I walk to the car.
Right.
Thanks. That's harm reduction right there. Calling your friend to make sure you're safe. People going to the bar and drinking, calling a designated driver. That's harm reduction. Helmets, seatbelts, all harm reduction. But society doesn't seem to have a problem with it until it involves drug users for some reason.
Yeah.
I think it's...
Yeah. So is Never Use Alone throughout the country? Is it everywhere throughout the country?
Yeah, it's a U.S. national line. Anywhere in the U.S. can call. There's a Canadian line also. Can't figure their number offhand, but it's NORS.ca is their website. But yeah, and then there's the Brave app too. That's a good one. They do the same thing. We partner with them a lot. But they do the same thing we do, just through an app for people that might not have phone minutes or Wi-Fi only or whatever. So that's a good option for them. But it's been replicated in 5 other countries now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Wow. And do you partner with the other countries?
We work closely with the Canadian line, and we're about to start another program through them. We're partnering with them called Mikey's Line. A lot of people these days with these drug-induced homicide laws being pushed all over the place, more and more people are being left when they're overdosing. And my best friend Mikey was left on a porch at 3 o'clock in the morning, and nobody found him till it was far too late. So we're starting Mikey's Line, and it's an anonymous overdose reporting line. What it will be is if you're with somebody and they're overdosing and you're not going to call for help, you're not going to call 911 because you might be charged with murder if you do, you can call us, let us know where you're leaving, and we'll call an ambulance to that location, no questions asked. So, it's going to take a little bit more to get that going because the legal liabilities are different than as were with NUA. But in partnering with the Canadian organization, I think it's going to, just in the last couple of weeks, we came to that decision that we were going to partner up and get that going. So,
yeah,
I'm excited about that.
And I think New Hampshire has a law. They passed a law a few years ago that if somebody, a friend's using with somebody and somebody's overdosing, they can call and they can stay there with you and they won't get arrested. No questions asked. They'll just...
Yeah, every state has a Good Samaritan law. They're all different. Yeah, here in Tennessee, we have a Good Samaritan law, but it only works one time. After that, no good. For the person overdosing. The caller is covered. But if that caller, let's say me and my buddy Joe calls me, he's sick, I'm sick, he's got some money, My guy's got some dope. I go and get it for us. He gives me a little bit for getting it for him. He overdoses and dies. I got charged for murder. That's why they don't call for help now. They're going to prison for murder. Just because they had a friend, something, because they were sick. Their brothers, people who are in prison right now because their brother overdosed and died, they're charging them with murder just because they got it for them. No, I'm not the brightest bulb, but everybody knows that no, don't get me wrong. I don't want to say that. I personally believe that if somebody's caught making or selling fake pills and selling them as the real thing, that is murder. Those people, that's poisoning, that's murder. Well, when somebody like my son's mother, she overdosed and died while I was on the phone with her. And but she knew exactly what she was using. She knew exactly what she was buying. What most of them do when this happens, especially like I said, if me and Joe, when you got some heroin or fentanyl, we know the risks. So I don't understand. I think this drug-induced homicide law is just born out of revenge, and it's causing more deaths than it's stopping.
And maybe it's it's people that are making the laws are not educated,
or they're being influenced by mothers who are furious and heartbroken, and I can understand that.
Mother.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, and they're being influenced by mothers who are heartbroken and looking for something, a reason, something. Yeah. And I can't. I've never lost. Yes, I've never lost a child, so I can't say that I understand that. But I can understand how they could feel that way. But these laws, these drug-induced homicide laws now are canceling out the Good Samaritan law. I mean, if you had anything to do with getting that or anybody else, they're going to take your phone, that person's phone. So if you're being investigated or whatever, everything you got on your phone, whether you sold it to them or not, they're going to see it. And so that's another thing. I mean, it's drug-induced homicide laws are just canceling it all out. I mean, I think their intention, the thought behind it was that they were going to get these big drug kingpins, that it was just going to go on up the chain. Yeah. It's not happening. It's not happening. They're getting brothers.
Yeah,
best friends.
Kids. Yeah, people that that's not their intention to kill their best friend or their sibling or anybody else. They're just looking to get high because they're
just looking to get better. Yeah. It's fun.
And I guess you can see both sides. I'm a mom, and I was watching my son killing himself, and there was nothing I could do. And you kind of go, you got to do everything you can to try to control it, and it's the worst thing ever because we're mourning the loss of our beautiful children while they're still alive because we've lost them to their addiction. And, that's a hard pill to swallow. And, and then if you don't understand addiction and, all that goes with it, that it's really hard. And
we're going by forever of having parents influenced by nothing other than abstinence-based programs. That's all that they've had. Al-Anon, that's basically just another NA group. I mean, that's all it's been forever. And so, it's hard to change what society's been force-fed for so many years. But, it's panic, surely.
And, I remember when I was new to this world and the first time my son went to treatment and just like lambasting him with 90 meetings, 90 days, get a sponsor. You have to work a recovery program. When I knew what none of it meant. None of it meant. But I'm gonna tell you all about it. and it was really hard.
It's sad. And then I imagine you were told if he screws up, he doesn't want it bad enough. That's just ridiculous. It's just the program's not working for him. Try something else. It's not that he doesn't want to do better.
Right. Well, every time my son had a reoccurrence, I took it personally. I made it about me. How could you do this to me and your father? We've been so good to you. You know, had a nice life. How can you do this? And when in fact it was just, it wasn't his time. He needed more. My son had a spiritual awakening in treatment, and that's what happened for him. Every time he went to treatment, it was to get me off his back. And for some reason, he found a big book at this treatment facility and read it, and something clicked for him. And that was what he did. So, how it works for people, I mean, there's many pathways, and some it's harm reduction, some it's treatment, some it's just pure abstinence, some it's the steps. It doesn't matter the way you do it, as long as you find what works for you.
Absolutely. And I would never discourage anybody from attempting the 12-step program. I would never tell them, don't do that, unless they're on Suboxone or methadone. Then it's kind of dangerous to send them into those programs because they're pushed. I mean, it varies. See, that's another thing about the program is it varies. One group might be cool with methadone. One group might be cool with Suboxone. One group not cool with any of it. You don't know what you're getting walking into any different meeting.
Right. And when you say that, just to clarify for people, because some groups believe it's 100% abstinent, and when you're on like a Vivitrol or methadone or Suboxone, people think that that's just a replacement of the heroin or whatever the drug of choice was. Mm-hmm. They don't understand that it keeps people alive, and then there's people who move forward and they wean themselves off. I don't know if that's the right language, but there's many people who can be on it the rest of their lives, and they're highly functioning, and it's what keeps them alive and keeps them well. And then there's other people that don't want it anymore and move away from it, and they do well too. So again, there's many pathways to recovery. It's just finding what works for each individual without judgment.
Yeah, absolutely. What I meant was in the variances in beliefs is within the 12-step program, within the NA program. You go to one meeting and they're cool with weed. You go to cool with another meeting and it might be totally different. It's the same book, but it's like it's interpreted. It's open to interpretation. I had a guy that wouldn't sponsor me because I was on Cymbalta. What's wrong with me? I mean, but in another meeting, another guy, totally fine with it. He didn't care if he smoked weed. He's cool with that. But you never know what you're going to get. So if you're on medications and you're doing well on those medications, I would not recommend going to a 12-step meeting unless you know for sure that meeting is okay with that medication. But the NA World Services put out an IP in 2016 that said that anybody on medications prescribed by a doctor is perfectly fine, unless it's a medication used to treat substance use disorder. Then they refer to them as a still using addict, and they're not welcome to share during the meeting. Get with somebody after the meeting. They're not even allowed to speak in a meeting. They're not worthy, apparently. I don't know. But, it's, if they're on, and that's pretty much any meeting. You say if you've used any substance within the last 24 hours, we ask that you just listen during this meeting. So if you're on Suboxone and you take it daily, you don't get to speak. You feel that.
Because, within the community, the recovery community, what I'm hearing you say is there's judgment.
Oh, absolutely. The biggest judgment I see against Suboxone is from people in the recovery community.
And the people who are there to support you.
Yes, people that have been going to NA meetings for 2 months, they don't know whether it's going to work for them, but they're being pumped into the head. They're getting it pumped into their head that Suboxone and methadone is failure, and this is the only way to do it. And it's killing people. But I was the same way when I was going to those meetings. It wasn't working for me, but I thought it was my fault. I didn't want it bad enough. Maybe I'm not doing the steps right. Maybe I need to do another 4th step, as they say. No, it just wasn't working for me. Wasn't what I needed. But yeah, it can be dangerous. And like I said, it's open to interpretation. But a lot of parents are in the belief that if their kid won't go to an NA meeting, they don't want it bad enough. That's not the case at all. It's just they don't like the religious aspect. Maybe they don't like the abstinence base of it. Maybe they don't like the dealers that hang outside the meeting, or maybe they don't like the 13th stepper guy that sits in the alcoholic guy that carries a bottle of pills in his pocket and jingles them around after the meeting to attract the newcomer women. Saw that one in a local guy here used to come to our home group all the time. Was an older guy who was a problem drinker, and he didn't have a drug addiction, but he came to the meetings with a bottle of pills, and after the meeting, he'd shake his little bottle of pills, and everybody knew what he was doing. Nobody said a word.
Wow.
All that just him.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's dangerous stuff.
There's a documentary called The 13th Step. Watch that.
Oh, is that the new one?
No, it's an older one. I don't know how old it is, but is there a new one out now?
Well, I know there's a situation in New Hampshire where because of, and it's called the 13th Step because of the way some of the people who ran their treatment facilities, they're not always have the credentials.
Yeah.
And there's people who are misused and abused, I guess, so now the state of New Hampshire is putting a bill in place because of this one facility, and so that things are going to be done. You have to have the credentials, and you have to have the licenses, and not just anybody who's been through recovery can open up a treatment facility anymore. They're going to stop that. Which, you know what? There's a lot of brokering going on, not in New Hampshire. I heard a lot in Florida. I mean, this is
California and Florida are the meccas of the body brokering thing. That I'm telling you, after about a year of seeing behind that shady old curtain, it's disgusting what that industry is. It's so dangerous. Parents think they're sending their kid to some great rehab that claims to be the number one place in wherever, which is bullshit, excuse me, because there's no rating system. So who rated them number one? They see all the websites we're the number one this, we're the number one that, we have this, we have that. Then you get there and it's a dump in a house that's got 19 bedrooms and partitioned off in it, and they're pimping women out. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah,
I couldn't be a part of that. I mean, it was horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible. But the stories you hear when you really start digging into the treatment industry, man.
Yeah, it's scary. It's really scary that here we are, and there's people that are leveraging their houses to send their kids, and losing their houses or their 401ks, or just financially depleting everything in hopes of sending their children. Yeah. And I was victim of it myself. I was going to send my son to Florida. It was $30,000 a month, I think, back in like the early 2000s. And funny story, I was calling JetBlue to make the reservation for him, and when the operator came on and said NA hotline, and I was like, "Excuse me, I was trying to call JetBlue," and she goes, "Oh," and I said, "Yeah, I'm sending my son to treatment," and we got into this conversation, and she talked me out of it. She said, "Do not send him to Florida," and you send them to a local, right in your state, a state facility, and because there's no guarantee that you pay $30,000 and he's going to get well. So, and you could lose him.
Yeah.
And then he takes off in Florida, and now you don't know where he is.
Yeah. That happens a lot too. Your kids get down there, and then they get kicked out of the house for some reason, something stupid, and they get kicked out, and they won't let them take their stuff. They just kick them out. They don't take them to the airport. They don't do anything. They're out in the street in California somewhere.
Yeah, it's scary.
And there's so many of those predators. One of those Facebook recovery guru people that you see making live videos all the time, asking you to share their content so more people that need help can, whatever. They are just predators. I mean, they work for treatment centers. They are paid to fish for people with good insurance. The best way to do that is on Facebook with live videos showing how well you're doing and what you can do for them. And, all these different recovery stories. And you've got all these people sharing your stuff, and they're helping you fish. And these people are getting paid, starting out $100,000 a year to fish for people for these treatment centers. They don't care if that treatment center is the right fit for you. They don't care what your individual needs are. All they care about is the front and back of that insurance card. That's all they care about. And
they pay cash. I had a mother that her son ended up again in Florida. I hate to pick on Florida because, but anyway, and they offered him, they said if he could get his girlfriend to go down, they'd give him like $4,000 or $5,000 cash.
Wow.
And he got her to go. And, so the last thing you need is them to have this cash in hand. Right? How risky is that? And,
a lot of them down here, once they get them there, they'll pay them to use again so they can restart their insurance.
I've heard that. Yeah. They want to restart the insurance. I've heard that. It's just so sick. It is just so sick.
And I think it was still like 90% of the treatment centers in America, and pretty much all of them, for anybody that has state funded insurance, are basically just 12-step boot camps. I mean, you're sending your kid there, they're charging thousands of dollars to just use a free program. They're going to send you out, push you through the first 3 steps real quick. Boot camp done. 28 days, you're out. That'll be 10 days, guys. Good luck.
Yeah.
Not a treatment plan.
Yeah, I know. Back in the day, my son, typically it was the 28 days, but the last program he went to in New Hampshire, they had an extended program, and he ended up staying. He was there for probably 3 months, and it was probably the best thing because that's what he wanted to do. He just wanted to stay there, and just. I guess he was afraid to come home and come back to the environment. And so he did that for 3 months. And then, he has, since then, he's had an uninterrupted recovery all these years, So we're coming to the end here. Let's see, what challenges do individuals face in implementing the principles, and how do you promote never using alone?
It was such a simple idea that it blew up so quickly. It traveled across the harm reduction community really quick. On our website, we put a downloadable, printable file that would print off. It was 8-card business card, like hanging on one sheet of paper. So people started downloading that, and pretty soon we're seeing our cards popping up all over the place. People are sending us pictures of our phone number etched in a tree, and graffiti on a wall or something. It was just amazing where all these things are coming from. The promotion of it all, it's every treatment center, pretty much every MAT clinic, harm reduction organization, the National Institutes of Health, the CDC, Department of Defense, they're all endorsing us now. It just spread like wildfire, but it's it doesn't cost us anything really to do this. It's the line, the toll-free number is like $70 a month or something. And right now, all our operators are all volunteers. I mean, we're all volunteer.
Wow.
We're all volunteer right now, but we hope to secure funding soon to be able to pay our operators at least.
Yeah.
They definitely deserve it. But, and when one person calls and when they hang up, everything's fine. Police didn't show up. We didn't push them to go to treatment. We didn't say anything judgmental to them or suggestive or anything. Then they tell their friends, hey, I just called the line. They're cool, man. I'm talking to myself, So then that person calls, and then they tell their friends. Most people call. And, it started out at the beginning. It was September of 2019 that I started it. So then what was it? February, March of 20 when COVID hit and the lockdowns happened. But up to that, the first 4 or 5 months, the only time the phone ever rang was people calling to see if it was real. And then so it was a few months before anybody called to actually use the service. And when I started it, I wondered if it would work, if people would even trust us enough to call. And after a few months of it not working, people just calling to see if it was real, I thought, it's not going to work. But then COVID hit, and then the phone started ringing. 1 or 2 calls a day, then 5 calls a day, then 10. Now we're getting 50, 60, sometimes more than that a day. We're up to, I think we're over 40,000 now.
Wow.
Taken, yeah.
Wow. Good for you.
Yeah, and it was such a simple idea. I mean, I'm no Einstein.
Those are the blessings, right?
I don't know why nobody thought of it before me. That's all I can say.
It was meant to be you.
Yeah.
So before we leave, what advice do you have for the listeners who may be struggling with addiction or supporting someone who is struggling?
If you're struggling, connect with a harm reduction organization, somebody non-judgmental that you can talk to, that you can go to for help. If you need supplies, connect with an organization. If you don't know where that is, go to nextdistro.org. They have a list of organizations throughout the country. They also have a list on there. It's extremely important. Everybody know their Good Samaritan law and their Narcan distribution laws in their state. There's a list of policies by state on that website as well. Very important.
Can you say that website one more time, please?
Nextdistro.org.
What is it? Next, N-E-X-T?
Yes, Next Distro, like distribution.
Oh, so NEXTDISTRO dot
.org. Okay. Yeah, nextdistro.org. They have a lot of great resources there, so they can help you connect with an organization. If you're struggling and you're still using, whether you want to quit or not, that's okay. Connect with an harm reduction organization to keep you safe. That's the best thing you can do. And whether it be an NA group or a smart recovery, a fishing group, a knitting group, whatever, get with a group of people who are doing things. We're told in the recovery community that you have to be abstinent you have to be clean for a year before you can start helping people. That's BS. You're just as valuable as everybody else. Well, I don't care how long you've been using or whether you're not using or not.
Mm-hmm.
So get in there, do something that gives you a good sense of purpose and pride. That's made the biggest difference for me. Something to be proud of, make a big difference. And people that are living with somebody that's struggling, just love them. Don't take the tough love approach. I mean, I understand there's a fine line between what people could see as enabling and boundaries. You've got to have your boundaries, but don't kick them to the side. Don't do that. I mean, you're taking somebody that's already suffering, already thinks of themselves very lowly, not good at all. They probably already think that you're putting you're reinforcing their belief that nobody cares. Kick them out like that. There's nothing wrong with boundaries. No, not saying that, but don't kick them out. And a lot of people are being told, kick them out and don't take a call from them unless they're wanting to ride the treatment. Don't do that. Just love them. I know you don't like the drug use. You wish they'd do better, and they will. But you have to be there for them to help them get there. Don't push it on them. Just push safety, not abstinence.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And it was a pleasure to meet you. And again, your organization is called Never Use Alone. And people can call so that they don't overdose, and it's not that it's the environment, but you all make it safer for them to use alone because somebody's on the other line listening and ready to call for help if needed. Yeah. That's the concept.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect. No judgment, no preaching, no shame, just love.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to support the Sharing Without Shame podcast, please subscribe, like, and leave a review. If you're in need of emotional support, Donna offers private sessions. For more information about Donna and the services she offers, visit www.sharingwithoutshame.com or email her at Donna4support@comcast.net. Nothing in the Sharing Without Shame podcast is intended to establish a therapist-patient relationship or intended to replace the services of a trained therapist, doctor, or health professional, or substitute for professional mental health, medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Until next time, may your faith and strength heal your heart.